Okay, everybody, welcome to a brand new trading session in a brand new section of the volume profile formula. The title of the session is Winning Trade Ideas. Now, in this session and in this section of the program, we're talking about our method. We're talking about coming up with high quality trade ideas. How do we do that? What does that look like? What are some specific examples? We're going to be going through all of that in this section. This first session here is very important as this is going to set the tone so that everything that comes next, we're going to be able to understand and really see what makes it all work. So I already know that you're very focused. I already know if you're watching this that you're not multitasking, that you don't have any cell phones in hand, scrolling through social media, that you're locked in. I already know that. So let's just jump into it. And let me start with a question. What is a trading method? I think we could all agree that our trading method is a very important part of what we do with our trading business. And it would be important that we answer this question and be able to answer this question. And sometimes there's a lot of moving pieces and things get complicated, but it's always good to just reset back and sometimes just ask some very specific questions, some simple questions, and make sure that we can answer these. This is what we're going to be talking about. What is our trading method? And if you are not in a position to answer this question, uh, it's a good thing you're here. Let's talk about it. So the first thing, our trading method, this is how we make sense of what we are seeing. We sit down to the screens and there's price action everywhere. There's potentially indicators everywhere. There's products that we can trade. There's time frames all over the place. It's chaotic. What our trading method allows us to do is to be able to sit down at the screens and to understand what is going on, what information is important, what information should mean nothing to us, when there is something to do, when there is nothing to do and we need to sit on our hands. Our trading method is what makes this possible. It's how we sit down at the screens and we make sense of what we're seeing. The trading method also allows you to identify repeatable action that gives you an edge. This is what we're after, and this is the capabilities of our method. We don't need to expect more of it than this, and we don't need to operate outside of this, but allowing you to identify repeatable action that gives you an edge. So to break down these words, because this is really important, this repeatable action. Price action repeats itself. When you sit down to the screens, as the market is moving around, the market creates repeatable type of action. It leaves behind patterns. And this doesn't have to be as simple as a head and shoulders or maybe a doji. I'm not just talking about basic candlestick patterns, but we have action that repeats itself in the market. And it's very important that we're able to identify this. Because if we're trying to understand what is most likely to happen next, and we're in some kind of a unique situation that we've never seen before, it's not going to be possible. But the market leaves behind repeatable action, and our method allows us to identify that. Then it allows us to have that repeatable action that gives us an edge. We hear this in trading, a trading edge, having an edge. The edge is knowing what is most likely to happen next. That's all. There's nothing to overthink about it. And notably here, knowing what is most likely to happen next, not the idea that we know what is going to happen next. And going back to what I said earlier of we don't need to expect more of our trading method than what is possible. We're looking for a repeatable type of action that can give us an edge. And when we're in a situation where we've identified repeatable action and we understand what is most likely to happen next, that's really the best we can do as traders. We are not in the business of knowing, and trading is not the business for certainty. And this is really the death of a lot of would-be traders who come into this business. They come and they go, they come and they go, because they never really accept the fact that this is not the business for this is not the business for certainty. This is the business for uncertainty. And even with the best analysis and even with the best method, we will still never know what exactly is going to happen next. The only thing we can know and the best we can hope for is what is most likely. And the very good news is that it's not necessary. We don't need to be prophets. We don't need to see the future. We don't need to be able to forecast what's going on. We can operate in an environment where we know what is most likely, where we have uncertainty, and we can still accomplish everything that we need to out of our trading. But what will get us really messed up is where we don't accept that as a fact. And this leads you to staying in trades way longer than you should and not accepting the loss and doing any number of really crazy things because at a certain level, you might not have accepted the fact that you're just wrong, that the analysis fell short, that the trade failed. And at some level, this is part of the business. But this is what our method is, and this is what it allows us to do. It allows us to make sense of what we are seeing so that we know what is important, what is not. It allows us to identify repeatable action that gives us an edge. Now, what does that look like exactly? How do we look at the market? And how do we identify and how do we understand what is most likely to happen next? What is the kind of ground up approach of this? In the next several sessions, I'm going to be walking you through some specific examples of this, but I want you to see the overview of the what makes it possible, how it's working, so that as I cover the next several sessions, you'll have a much better understanding of what's happening right in front of you. So the first step is to master tools. You have to have some tools that you have a high level of competence in. And this could be virtually anything. This could be as simple as just the raw price action. This could be something in order flow. This could be a tool like the volume profile, which we'll be discussing. This could be the VWAP, any number of things that this could be. But we need to have some type of a tool that we are relying on. And then as we master that tool and as we understand that tool, understand what exactly that tool is telling us, what is the information here, why is it important, then as we learn that tool, we should be able to identify repeatable patterns. If the tools that we're using to come up with our trade ideas are not allowing us to do this, then we're either using these tools wrong or we need to move on and select some different tools because this is foundational. So we have these tools we're using, let's say the volume profile. We've learned what the volume profile does. We understand how to set this up. These are things I'll be explaining to you soon. And then once we understand that, we can identify repeatable patterns. And I'm going to show you several examples of these. Things that repeat based on the information that we're getting from our tools. Then we have to create some rules around that edge. Remember that repeatable pattern, this is what gives us the edge, where when we see this shape up, we understand what is most likely to happen next. Now it's important that we create some rules around that because that in and of itself will just be a raw idea, a very rough edge. So generally we understand that this is the direction we're heading, or this is a targeting, this is a place that we're likely to target. But we need to think through it and create some rules around it so that when this repeatable action surfaces, here's how I behave. This is what I wait for. This is what needs to set up. This is where I target. This is where I'll take this trade off if something is wrong. And then this gives us our trade idea. So we've learned these tools. With those tools, we're allowed to see things that repeat itself. We create some rules around that so that when this happens, we do this. And then this is our trade idea. Then every time that surfaces, we look to go out there and we look to execute that the best that we can. Now, with these trade ideas, I'm going to be showing you 3 specific ones. And as I'm introducing this, there might be a little confusion around still what exactly I mean or what this looks like. But remember what we're saying here. And then in the next several sessions, all the pieces will fall together. I'm going to be talking to you about 3 specific trade ideas. One is called line in the sand, one is called the naked tractor beam, and one is called MC flow. So with one of these, we're going to be using a composite profile. I'm going to show you how to set that up, and then I'm going to show you what the information is telling us, and then we're going to see the repeatable pattern. Then I'm going to talk to you, or for one of these, we're going to be using a developing days volume profile. So just an individual profile that shapes up every day. And similarly, I'm going to tell you how that's set up. We're going to see what the information is, and then we're going to recognize what is that repeatable pattern that surfaces and how we can take advantage of it. And the last thing I'm going to show you is a trade idea based on a microcomposite. So there's going to be a nice assortment here of profiles that we're going to look at, and I'm going to show you specific trade ideas. And what's exciting about this is as I'm walking you through this small handful of trade ideas here, this is really, it's not really exhausting the things that I know about the profile in any way, but it's not even scratching the surface of what is possible. Because I'm one person and I see things a certain way and I have certain aptitudes and I have certain strengths and certain weaknesses. And you are a different person. You have different strengths and weaknesses and aptitudes. And you will see things that I would never think to put together or that I might never identify. And as you learn these tools and as you take this further, there will be things that you see that you can create these on your own. And this is the ultimate goal of our trading. We shouldn't be in this forever environment where we have to sign up to a trading group or be a part of a chat service so that we have a tap of information. And without that, we don't know what to do. This is not the way forward. We should be able to learn things and we should be able to learn from other people and to take in information and then we evolve. And then we come up with our own ideas and we become our own person and become our own trader. And it's a beautiful thing. And I wish that for every single one of you. Okay, here's some key ideas that we talked about. We looked at the trading method, which identifies repeatable action that gives us an edge. That's why we have a method. This is what we need to be looking for. We talked about the edge, which is knowing what is most likely to happen next. I said a few words about the importance there, that we're not trying to be right. We're not trying to be 100% accurate. We're not trying to know anything. We just want to know what is most likely to happen next. We don't want to know. Uh, we would love to know. We don't get to know what is going to happen next, but the best that we can hope for is what is most likely, and we just want to be in the direction of that edge, and we want to be in alignment with that. The formula for coming up with a method is we have to have these tools where there's a high level of competence. We need to be able to identify with those tools repeatable action. We need to put a little bit of structure and some rules around those raw ideas, and then we can have a winning trade idea, a high quality trade idea that we can look to go out and execute and potentially adjust as time goes on. And an important idea here, never enter the market without a trade idea. This is the um, poison for traders. And everybody here listening to me, you know what that's like to be sitting down at the screens and to really be lost, to just make decisions based on it looks like the market is turning, or I feel like this is going to stop here, or I feel like this is the bottom, or I think that. And when you go out there and you operate in that sense, this is not trading. This is not you clearly identifying what an edge is and understanding what is most likely to happen next and having rules that you're following based on that idea. This is you going out there and rolling the dice. There's no difference between that and online gambling. We know the house always wins, so we want to avoid that behavior. It's very important for our trading. The idea of sitting down at the screens and just randomly doing things or shooting from the hip or just trying to see what you think is most likely to happen, this is not trading. And when you get to a point where you have some structure and you understand the tools that you're using, you understand what is the repeatable action, you understand why that's an edge, you understand what the rules are for when that edge surfaces, you let that shape up, you execute on that, the game changes. And the trading experience becomes a lot more friendly, becomes a lot more interesting, and a lot more successful. So process everything we're talking about right here. And when you're ready, I'll see you in the next session where I'm going to start introducing to you our first trade idea.